Whenever you do a story, investigative reporting, you always come up with several branches of the story. When people tell what they think is true or what they believe is true, then they tell things they've been told which may or may not be true. And then, of course, there's a few liars in there that either try to cover their tracks or they weave rabbit trails to try to throw people off. I'm basically a political writer, and I write on state, sometimes national issues dealing with politics, mainly Texas secession, oh, the Texas nationalist movement, gun rights, things like that. Every now and then I get bogged down in a stupid story, which is basically what I'm now, bogged down in a stupid story. But I'm in the story, and I'm going to follow it to its conclusion. And when you do these kinds of things, you must always be aware that the very basics of the story may be based on a simple falsehood. You got to be aware that, well, if someone would say, so and so stole my car, well, you need to check and make sure they even own the car. I got fired from my job. You can see they really had a job. I lost my child. You need to make sure there ever was a child, or the person is who they say they are. You take nothing for granted. An honest reporter or writer will state the facts as they truly are. A dishonest writer will use terms like, what if I told you, or what if I were to say, or in my opinion, and things like that. When you hear those kinds of phrases, like, for instance, if you write down in an article, so and so said that they did not say this or that at the Republican convention. What if I were to tell you, and you make some asinine statement, like a certain reporter out of Austin was in an altercation at the Republican National Convention with the Young Turks. And I watched the video. Now, the report of it from this person was one story, but when you watch the video, you see something else totally different. Totally different. And anyway, the bottom line, what I'm getting to is, if you don't slander people, in other words, you can't. If you tell the truth, you're not slandering, you're not libeling. If you tell about only things that you know to be true because they happen to you, then it's not slander and it's not libel. Another thing is to be, and this always comes up. It comes up. If it doesn't come up, I'm frankly surprised. They always scratch their head and say, there may be criminal charges. Well, not unless you break the law. Okay, if you just actually threaten someone and they have a recording of you saying, I'm going to kill you, well, that's a threat. If you really harass someone, then you're guilty of harassment. Now, if you receive phone calls from someone and you don't answer them and refuse to answer or reciprocate or even text back, they can say, you're blocked, don't do this and don't do that. And then when they turn around and they call you, then they've just broke the whole thing right there, because they themselves have opened the channel of communication. Now, the advice is, don't communicate. Don't communicate. And with a certain story that I'm on now, I'm not communicating because I have staffs that are actually working on the facts in this thing, and I'm going toward a decided end, a decided conclusion. And when I get to that conclusion with the facts that I can prove, then I will write the final article and do the final story. So don't let people, there is a host of people who try to intimidate or basically wear you down. You get up in the morning and you're having coffee and you put a little chocolate in it so it's real sweet, and you get a text, the police are on the way. You're going to be arrested today. Even if you know it's the product of a crazy mind, you still got that gut charge. It's like somebody doing this at you all the time. You know they're not going to hit you, but there it is. And it's just And like in The Godfather 2, what Hyman Roth said is one of my mottos, is this is the business I've chosen. If I wanted to critique cookbooks, then I would critique cookbooks, but I don't do that. I do political commentary, and a lot of it is inflammatory. When I latch onto a story and it's inflammatory, I'm there. And also, the type of person that will attack you, if if you had said nothing, if you had done nothing, this person has an agenda. They had their plans laid from the beginning. The attack was going to come. It was going to come. You didn't answer a phone call on time. You didn't come back with the appropriate help at the very moment it was needed. Well, that attack was going to come. And the only problem is if you attack John Q. Public, then you get a shaky old man who's running around trying to find a lawyer. If you attack an investigative reporter, you get investigated. It's as simple as that. And that's where we're at with a certain situation. Now, you cannot become angry. The way I look at it, if you had a mad dog in the backyard, you don't, excuse me, you don't hate the mad dog. It's irrelevant how the dog acquired the rabies, but you know the end that is going to have to come. Okay, it's a mad dog. Well, the situation I'm in, I have a mad dog situation. I don't hate the mad dog. I don't care how the dog became mad, but I can't let the mad dog scamper around my yard and bite me. So it's not a question of survival. My survival is not even a question. It's not a question of my integrity. My integrity is actually impeccable, in spite of what some people may say. It's not a question of honesty, because my articles are disseminated through the public on a daily basis with thousands of readers. If I'm called to task on something I said or something I quoted, I'll either defend it, or sometimes I'll say, oh, I was wrong. I was wrong. I was right about Ted Cruz. And I took some hits on what I said about Ted Cruz. Come to find out, he jumped up on the stage of the Republican convention and confirmed everything I ever said. Ted did that to himself. I didn't do it. I was right about Donald Trump's Southern strategy. Everybody's, oh, no, he's not going to do that. Well, I was right about that, too. He took Southern strategy. I was right when I said he was going to be nominated. And I'm right when I say he's going to be president. It's the final straw in all the rights I've been this year. And on every one of those articles I took, it wasn't vicious hits. It was very civilized, scholarly questions that were posed to me. But in this other thing, you're going to see a story unfold, and it's going to be an interesting story, and I think it's going to surprise you. I think the story is going to come unraveled. Like Donald would say, it's going to be huge, but I don't think it's going to be huge the way the person at the bottom of the story thinks it's going to be. I was accused of throwing a bowl, for instance, during this mess, and I did throw a bowl. I just received word that my ex-wife was, excuse me, having a heart problem again, was going to have to go back into surgery, and someone on the porch wouldn't shut up. And so I took a glass soup bowl and smashed it on the concrete. My soup bowl, my concrete, my problem. Okay, that's the kind of stuff that happens. So in conclusion, take all my words of wisdom with a grain of salt, and I will continue to write. And I do not get angry, and I will seek out the truth, and I will display it in any way I possibly can.